Real politics, and we got a lot to get to here, so we're going to break it into parts. And in our first segment, we deal with the race itself. Now, we're going to break down these numbers, and these, of course, the first ones that you're going to look at. President Obama stretching his lead, if you want to call it that, when we're in the margin of error, to a little under 2 points when you put the composites of all the polls together, and this again with 166 days until voting begins. Of course, the billion-dollar question remains, what will those numbers say come the 11 p.m. on the 9th of November 6th, and I think we're being hopeful here since we're covering at 11 o'clock. We're just going to be beginning the night, but anyway, let's keep going. As you would expect, two very different sets of math depending on two very different perspectives when we get to how we get to the magic 270, Andrew. So add them up for us.
All right, Rich. Well, you went through the national averages, but tonight there are new numbers from the swingiest of the 12 swing states that are likely to determine who wins in November. Yeah. The polls from NBC News and Marist give President Obama significant leads in Ohio, where he's up 8, as well as Florida up 4, and Virginia, where the president is up 4 as well. So what might that mean come November? Well, since those polls favored Obama, let's start with the most Obama-friendly forecast we can find, and that one comes from the analysts at the Huffington Post. Their forecast still has the president above the 270 electoral vote total needed to win re-election, with 5 states still listed as toss-ups. Note the almost complete Obama sweep that they have in the Midwest and the Northeast, including Pennsylvania and Ohio, which are shaded light blue on your map, or at least Ohio is, as well as Virginia, which is light blue on your map as well. Then in today's Wall Street Journal, we got a not so fast from the man who claimed to have the math back in 2006. Only didn't work out that way for him in 06. That, of course, would be Karl Rove. And in his piece in the Wall Street Journal today, titled Romney's Roads to the White House, Rove lays out a strategy he says will get Mitt Romney into the White House. Now, remember that last map we showed you? Compare it to Rove's map, and he magically gives Romney wins in Florida, Virginia, and Ohio. He also decides that Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Colorado, and Nevada are all toss-ups, not even leaning towards the president. And even with all that, when you do that math, Romney's at 266. He would still need to win one of the other states on that map in gray right now if he's going to win the White House, Rich.
All right, Andrew. And let me start from you, Dominic. We'll work our way around here. 166 days till they vote. Everybody agrees on this much. This thing's going to be really close, and a variety of factors could push it one way or the other. That said, who's in the stronger position right now? If you had to bet here, the mortgage, who do you think's got a better shot with the conditions on the ground right now to win?
I think Mr. Romney has a better position. But I think that that's a little unfair to President Obama, because as I have consistently said, President Obama was handed the Titanic.
Well, let's forget the whys, okay? And that's fair.
So then,
but in terms of from a strategy standpoint,
because if I'm Romney right now, I run on the economy, I let the gay marriage thing play out in these swing states, and I go on cruise control to the election.
That may be right, but it's his guess. The numbers show Obama ahead now. Now, given where he was 8 months ago, and if you want to draw trend lines, the trend line is strongly in his favor. You can't draw a trend line. And that is the reason why I think everyone agrees it's going to be very close. But if I had said to you in January, December, or November of last year, come Memorial Day, Obama's going to be 2 points up in national polls and ahead in most of the state polls, you would have said I was...
I hate to say this, I predicted this a while ago.
When you're looking at the
I'd
conditions...
No, you're not crazy.
When you're looking at the conditions that the country's in right now, when you consider the unemployment rate, when you consider people's views on the economy, whether they think it's improving or whether they don't think it's improving, and other things like that that would normally factor in, the president should not be doing as well as he is, and should not be having the leads in those states that he has.
I think to speak to Don's point, we just went through an ugly primary for the Republicans, and where this was a brutal thing which certainly didn't help Romney. If he's where he is now, with arguably the worst behind him, right, can't you argue here that he, if anything, he's going to have a better time going ahead than he did to this point?
I think if this was a hypothetical election and you closed your eyes on generic Democrat, generic Republican with the conditions that the country's in right now, you would not expect to see the numbers that we just showed. And so I think that's advantage Obama.
Okay, let me get to this next one. And Tom, I'm going to start with you on this, and that is the tone of the election. It's been pretty rough, and almost everybody agrees here with some of the new realities of these super PACs. It's only to get nastier. How nasty? Well, one expert who, as I said, has seen 11 different presidential races from the inside says 2012 already setting records for just how ugly it is.
11 presidential elections. I mean, that's what you've covered, and here we are, and covering one that where it seems that the ads are so petty and so childish, the conversation is so simplistic at a time of such seriousness. Is this just because all of us think, oh, this time is the most important time that we've ever seen, or is this really the worst?
You know, there have been bad ones before, but this is by far the worst so far. I think the fact that there were so many debates during the Republican primary contributed to it. But Aaron, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I think by the time we finish with this campaign, not only will it be a $3 billion presidential campaign, $3 billion, but it will be ugly enough to choke a buzzard before we get through with it. Both sides are going to be very, very ugly.
Tom, you heard the number $3 billion expected to be spent this election season. I know from a consultant, your eyes getting really big at that, but it's not going to be for love letters. Just how ugly is this thing going to get?
You know, listen, I really believe that so much of it is just tuned out. There is so much going on in the world. I mean, you know, I was with dinner last night with friends, and seriously, 6 of us, 5 of us are looking at our iPhones all night. I mean, I think it's $3 billion is certainly a lot of money, but I think that until after Labor Day, until the debates start, which I think are going to be crucial in this election, so much of it is just simple noise. And I think that the politician or the campaign that goes over the top is going to suffer in this one.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do, because I think that as you saw that
The Swift boat worked against Harris.
Has anybody ever been sunk for going over the top on a presidential level?
No, I think that there are cases that, you know, like for instance, I think Romney made a very good call when, you know, this conservative super PAC was going to start doing the whole Jeremiah Wright thing. I think Romney was absolutely right to say, shut up. That has no place.
But yet, Tom, he's meeting with Donald Trump, and they're reliving the entire issue again.
Okay,
Of
well,
the birth.
Yes.
Okay, well, listen. I mean,
You know, it
the
may
birthing
actually
issue isn't like a negative.
Tom may be right for the wrong reasons, and it may actually be too late.
It's never that you're just right, by the way.
Well, it's you know,
You
sometimes
can only go so
accidents
far,
happen. It may just be that Romney has been defined so powerfully by the Republican primary process as not a touch rich guy that it may just be impossible for him to get back over the next until September.
Let's see. You touch on that. We're going to talk about the Bain years. He certainly was going to use them. That this was proof positive that he's a business guy who knows how to put not just people to work, but also put money in pockets. The Democrats are trying to define it as the very opposite.